Part 53. The Lucky Bag is Reborn with Space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 521. Chapter 521. Anyone who stands in my way will die. Song Kingyun went home almost non-stop, packed his things and prepared some materials. The time was quite tight. From the time he came back from Haishi to when he was dispatched abroad, there was only 10 days at most. Song Kingyun also needs to coordinate all aspects among the students. I didn't even have time to see the old man and the old lady. I only called the old man and the old lady and reported my situation. The old lady told him for a long time that he must study hard after going out and work hard to bring that knowledge back. This is what the old lady has never told him since he became an adult. Song Kingyun packed everything and will get on the plane tomorrow. Today he organized the materials from the office and prepared to take them home to this office, which he will not need for the time being. When I opened the drawer, I suddenly saw the magazine The Lancet, and then I remembered this. Song Kingyun slapped himself the head to see what all this was about. I completely forgot about this matter. This is also a big deal. Their school has produced such a young talent. How old is Zhang Xiaoxiao? You can write such an insightful paper at such a young age, and it is so professional. Given time, there will definitely be much more room for improvement than myself as a professor. Now that he thought about it, he was still a little surprised. The list of students who went out for exchange this time was only Song Moding and not Zhang Xiaoxiao, which was a bit strange. Zhang Xiaoxiao's academic performance is absolutely outstanding in the school. He is the top student in the eyes of all the professors. Of course, the same is true for Song Moding, but Song Moding went, why didn't Zhang Xiaoxiao have the chance to go? But after thinking about it, I understood that Song Moding and Zhang Xiaoxiao were a couple. They couldn't give all the excellent resources to their family members. Presumably Dean Zhang and others took this fact into consideration, so they chose Song Moding from the two of them. Sometimes this background is really uncomfortable. I had better tell the child the good news earlier to save her from feeling uncomfortable. After all, it was because of the Song family that the child was delayed. Otherwise, how could Dean Zhang give up such an opportunity for such a talented child? Where is Zhang Xiaoxiao? Song Kingyun took the journal and was about to go out, but met Jiazhou head-on. The moment Jiazhou's eyes met the journal The Lancet in Song Kingyun's hand, his pupils couldn't help but darken. Slightly short of breath. Director Song, I have a few questions to ask you. Is it convenient for you? Jiazhou blocked the door of Song Kingyun's office. Song Kingyun smiled, this Jiazhou is really interesting. Why does this posture sound like a bully coming to your door? It's really inconvenient for me right now. You also know that I have to get on the plane tomorrow. I have something to do today. Have you seen this Lancet magazine? There is a paper in this journal, but it was written by a student there. He is only 21 years old, and he published a paper in the Lancet at such an age. I went to inform the child and also the dean. Song Kingyun was very happy. Should have informed the dean of such a big happy event a long time ago. Because I delayed it for so long and didn't handle this matter quickly, I feel a little sorry for Zhang Xiaoxiao. This kind of honor cannot be obtained by others even if they want it. Jiazhou was in a hurry and grabbed Song Kingyun, his arm was very strong. Jiazhou is in his 40s, and Song Kingyun is 50 years old. There is a difference of 10 years, so there is naturally a big difference in physical strength. Song Kingyun paused and felt a little disgusted. Director Song, really, I have something to discuss with you. Can you finish talking to me first and then go and do this? Jiazhou pushed Song Kingyun into the office almost forcefully. Then he himself came in and closed the door. Xiaoxia, what's going on with you? You can't be so forceful when you have something to say. I've told you. I'm pressed for time now. If you have any questions, you can wait until I come back to talk about it. Song Kingyun was educated to dislike others treating him with such a rough attitude. No matter what, he is now a first-level professor, but he is different from Jiazo. Jiazo's first-level professor is definitely qualified, and he is a serious first-level professor. Can this be the same? Looking at the posture, if I didn't explain this matter clearly to him today, this person would dare to force himself. We are all decent people, how can polite intellectuals do this? Director Song, you are going abroad tomorrow, leave it to me to deliver this magazine, I will help you go and save you the trip. Jiazo also knew that he had made a mistake in being anxious just now, and his attitude was too negligent. The Song Qingyun in front of him was different from himself. He was born into the Song family, and coupled with his profound knowledge, he was definitely a respectable person who was admired by others in the medical school. Unlike me, I am considered a fake. Even after I came up, people looked respectful on face, but in fact, they were full of contempt for me in private. The people below are all talking about themselves. The paper they presented this time is definitely problematic, but no one can deny it. The most authoritative and impartial review produced by The Lancet. The most important thing is that no one has found the real operator of this paper so far. Except for him to stand up, no one else can deny that he is the blade. If Song Qingyun really goes to find the dean, his whole matter will be exposed. It was all his uncle's fault, so he asked his uncle to use favors to break up the matter with Song Qingyun. But my uncle refused to do anything, and as a result he ended up in this embarrassing situation, pretending to acknowledge all these honors and achievements. The problem was that he still had to worry about being exposed. I originally thought that after at least a few years of asking my uncle to send Song Qingyun abroad, the matter would have been settled long ago. No one could produce strong evidence, so this matter became a certainty. At that time, he had already matured, and even if he defeated Song Qingyun, he could not shake his position. But who would have thought that Song Qingyun, a stumbling block, would come out and ruin his own good deeds? You said you are going abroad tomorrow, why do you have to go to the dean today to talk about these things? Once the dean knows that this paper was actually written by Zhang Xiaoxiao, what else will he have to do with himself? Facing myself, I am not only facing the problem of losing face, but I am also afraid that I will be expelled immediately. Academic research is very rigorous. No one wants to see a person who plagiarizes other people's work still be in the position of a teacher. How will colleagues, students, and everyone else view themselves? The business that he worked so hard for all fell apart. Of course, he would not let Song Qingyun expose this matter. Not even death. Song Qingyun disagreed. Xiaoqia, just leave this matter alone. You don't know what I want to say to the dean. You can't handle this matter. The blade is Zhang Xiaoxiao's matter, and only he knows about it. Because he submitted the manuscript, even Zhang Xiaoxiao himself probably doesn't know about it. The paper she gave herself has now been published in The Lancet. Jiazo gritted his teeth, wondering why this old man was so stubborn. Those who stand in my way will die. End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 522. Chapter 522 Vegetative State. Old MRS Song is making dumplings. 2-year-old Tang Yuan is helping the old lady make dumplings with a smile. Since the last time he helped his mother make wontons, he has definitely developed new skills in housework. However, the result of activating this skill is that the face is covered in flour, just like a tabby cat. The phone rings. MRS Song smiled and wiped the flour off the tip of her nose for the glutinous rice balls, and shouted to the old man. The old man hurriedly went to answer the phone and didn't see the two of us busy. Mr. Song looked up from the newspaper helplessly. Needless to say, it must be the boss calling at this time. He will get on the plane and leave tomorrow. Why don't you call me today to say goodbye? You just happened to tell the boss to come over for dinner and make dumplings today. The old lady also thought that once her son leaves, she will not be able to see anyone for at least 3 years. Mr. Song picked up the phone. After a while, the phone fell onto the glass coffee table, making a loud noise. Mrs. Song looked up and saw the old man with a defeated face and a serious expression. My heart tightened. The old man has not had this expression for many years. The last time this expression occurred was when his daughter-in-law passed away. What's wrong with the old man? The old man's lips trembled. Hurry, hurry, something happened to the boss. The old lady was startled. Boss, what could happen? Isn't he at school? He should go abroad tomorrow. My heart suddenly jumped in panic. The old couple panicked and asked the driver to take them to the hospital. Tang Yuan held the dumpling wrapper in his hand at a loss, and the aunt beside him sighed. The Song family is really in troubled times. Something always happens. Tang Yuan, let's make dumplings. Tang Yuan smiled and raised the dumpling wrapper in his hand, which had already turned into a ball. The outside of the operating room was crowded with people. President Zhang and Vice President Jia of the hospital, including several school directors, were all in the corridor outside the ward door. Of course there are several police officers who are taking notes with them. When Mr. Song and Mrs. Song arrived, everyone saw the two old people rushing to greet them. What happened to King Yun? The old lady tried to calm down, but her fingers were still shaking slightly. Mr. Song supported the old woman. I am afraid that the old lady will faint suddenly. Dean Zhang said the matter apologetically. Someone passed by Song King Yun's office after get off work and found that his office door was ajar. He thought he left it open when he left, so he planned to lock the door for him. Who knew that when he opened the door, he saw Song King Yun lying on the ground with a pool of blood next to his head, so he immediately called the police. The entire campus has actually been in chaos for a long time. Police cars and ambulances have frightened all the students. This is a criminal case. In broad daylight, a dignified professor was attacked. Had he not been discovered, he would have died. The police felt that something big was going to happen. The incident involving Mr. Song was one of the reasons for the severe crackdown. The murderer of Mr. Song was not caught, and now something happened to his son again. How can their police officers still have the face to survive? Mr. Song asked the doctor seriously. How is Song King Yun doing now? Mr. Song, Professor Song's condition is very serious. The back of his head was hit with a heavy object and the injury was serious. If it hadn't been discovered in time, he would have. The operation has been completed now, but the situation is not good. Professor Song's situation is likely to, meeting. The doctor looked at the old man's sluggish eyes and gray hair, and realized that even an old revolutionary as powerful as the old man was still an old man. How can an old father accept a white-haired person as a gift to a black-haired person? Old Mrs. Song grabbed the doctor. Doctor, what will happen? What do you think? What will happen? The boss will not die. We are not dead yet. How can he die? Impossible. The old lady muttered to herself nervously, feeling a little confused. The boss has always been kind to others, but he is afraid that this child will not be able to hold on and get into trouble in the process of practice. In college, this child is the most obsessed with academics. How can he have any enemies? The doctor said in embarrassment, it is very likely that he will not be able to pass this test. Even if his life is not in danger, Professor Song will probably become a vegetative state and stay like this for the rest of his life. Mrs. Song rolled her eyes and fainted completely. The old man hugged the old lady and said, Xiao Wang, send the old lady to the ward. He cannot fall at this time. He did not fall during the war years, and he cannot fall now. The enemy hiding in the dark corner wants them to die and suffer, but he cannot make them happy. Dad, what's wrong with my eldest brother? Song King he rushed to the hospital out of breath, and Song's mother followed him. Fang Ziyi and Song Mohuan also followed. Fang Xiaowai was happy that she actually gained 50 bad luck points. That's right. Uncle Song was an unexpected surprise. It was not the result of his own personal promotion. The reason why he could give her 50 bad luck points was because Uncle Song was her relative. Fang Xiaowai doesn't know what the system is, but as long as it's useful, it's fine. I urgently need bad luck points now, but I don't know how to get them. Fang Xiaowai has had headaches for several years. She is unpredictable. How can you get the value of being unlucky? Mr. Song waved his hands in despair. I'm afraid your eldest brother will become a vegetative state. Song Qinghe was silent for an instant. Tears came down. The eldest brother has always protected him and treated him well. He has a good heart and is like a boss at home. He takes the initiative in everything, protects his brothers and is filial to his parents. In his heart, the eldest brother is omnipotent and is their shield and support. Suddenly, the eldest brother became a vegetative state. Song Qinghe squatted on the ground silently, crying uncontrollably. Comrades from the police came to Mr. Song. Mr. Song, we have been investigating this incident overnight. Comrade Song Qingyun was attacked from behind and hit on the head with a blunt instrument. After preliminary inspection of the scene, we came to the conclusion that an acquaintance committed the crime. Professor Song did not. If you are not prepared for the other party, you will be attacked from behind without any resistance. They must give Mr. Song an explanation. The public security officers were investigating the scene overnight, and the superior leaders requested to solve the case as soon as possible. There was no explanation that they were sorry for Mr. Song, a hero. Mr. Song nodded tiredly. An acquaintance committed the crime. Please solve the case as soon as possible and catch the murderer. I want him to pay with his blood. Public security salute. Song Qingyun passed the critical period, but he really became a vegetative state. Suddenly, everyone in the medical university was in panic, and every tree was in turmoil. Everyone is wary of the people around them, and everyone looks like a murderer. Zhang Xiaoxiao immersed herself in the laboratory and finished the experiments. She had been locked up in her own hospital for a week, and Tao Zi's experiments had not stopped. This is her latest discovery. The peach tree in Lingquan has produced new peaches. This time the effect of peaches is different. She can only use mice for experiments, otherwise no one would dare to use them indiscriminately. Thanks to her own hospital, she also set up a special laboratory. Otherwise, I really don't know what to do. Zhang Xiaoxiao took a good bath and changed her clothes before going to school. She took a week off. It is time to cancel the fake products no matter what. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lucky Bag is Reborn with Space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 523. Chapter 523. Heaven knows and Earth knows. The atmosphere on campus seems to be tense. Both students and teachers are in a hurry and everyone is preoccupied. Zhang Xiaoxiao was stopped before he reached the dormitory. Zhang Xiaoxiao, hello, I'm Jiazhou, a clinical professor. Come to the office with me, I have something to ask you. A middle-aged man stopped Zhang Xiaoxiao. 5 minutes later. Jiazhou's office. Zhang Xiaoxiao was sitting on a chair. There seemed to be something wrong with Professor Jia in front of him, and his expression was a little reserved. She is a student and Jiazhou is a professor, but he is cautious about himself. What is this professor afraid of? Afraid of yourself? She looks terrible? Can't. Professor Jia, what do you want from me? Everything seems to be weird. The school has changed, but why have the teachers changed too? What happened? Jiazhou tried his best to put on a kind smile and tried to figure out what he wanted to say. Zhang, This is the case. Professor Song is hospitalized from now on. I will take over as your academic tutor. I hope you will hand over an academic paper to me within a week. Zhang Xiaoxiao stood up and asked, Professor Song is hospitalized. What's wrong with him? That's the uncle. How come she doesn't know the news? That's right, she was in the laboratory and couldn't hear what was going on outside the window. Jiazhou stretched out his hand to signal Zhang Xiaoxiao to sit down. Don't worry, Professor Song was attacked. He has stabilized now and is fine. Zhang Xiaoxiao breathed a sigh of relief. It's okay. It's okay, Professor Jia, I will give the paper to you in a week. I want to go back and take a look now. Jiazhou nodded. Watching Zhang Xiaoxiao leave in a hurry, his eyes glanced at the office door opposite. The scene of that day flashed before my eyes. He didn't do it on purpose. He didn't blame Song Qingyun. He was still as stubborn as before and didn't know how to adapt at all. He really didn't think about dealing with Song Qingyun like that. Song Qingyun said angrily that he would expose this matter, take the responsibility himself, and let everyone know that Zhang Xiaoxiao was actually the blade. Jiazhou knelt down and begged for mercy. He even pointed at his nose and said that his uncle was responsible for this matter. Without the protection of Vice President Xia, how could he pretend to be the uncle? Under the circumstances at that time, Jiazhou was really afraid that the news of their quarrel would spread, and if others heard about it, his reputation would be ruined. So he took the courage to pick up the trophy on the table, and then Song Qingyun fell to the ground. Jiazhou was so frightened by the blood on his head that he ran away without a trace. The next day, he heard that Song Qingyun had been sent to the hospital and was still alive. He was so frightened that he could not stop living. Once Song Qingyun wakes up, let alone his ruined reputation, he will probably die without a burial place. What should he do? Jiazhou even thought about running away and was afraid that the police would come to his door. When the police visited the office opposite for on-site inspection several times, he hid behind the door. Watching everything quietly through the crack in the door, he was afraid that someone would knock on his door. At that moment, my own death knell was sounded. But good news soon came. Song Qingyun actually became a vegetative state. This was great news. The person is not dead, but he will never wake up in his lifetime. He finally calmed down and could think about what to do about this matter. Song Qingyun became a vegetative state and will never wake up in this life. No one knows what he has done. Heaven knows and the earth knows, he knows, Song Qingyun knows. He continued to deceive the rest of the matter. He was the blade. No one knew that this paper belonged to Zhang Xiaoxiao. He legitimately applied to be Zhang Xiaoxiao's tutor. In this case, all Zhang Xiaoxiao's papers, they will all become their own possessions. In the future, not only can I become a professor, I can even succeed my uncle as the deputy dean, and maybe the dean. He will rise to great heights. Thinking of this, Jiazhou's frightened heart calmed down. He can actually be where he is today. It's God's will. Only for this meeting today did he want to hold Zhang Xiaoxiao tightly in his hand. This is his life-saving talisman. As long as Zhang Xiaoxiao is here, his professional knowledge will always be at the highest peak. No one dares to say that he has no real talent. Song Qingyun did himself a huge favor. Originally, he thought he had killed someone and was in panic all day long. But now that Song Qingyun was not dead, he felt that this was the best outcome. Becoming a vegetative person, no one can know the truth of the matter. Cover the sky with one hand. Zhang Xiaoxiao rushed to the hospital and saw Song Qingyun in the ward. Mr. Song and Mrs. Song were both ill, and they were both in the next room. Exhausted mentally and physically, the two old men couldn't bear the worry and finally lay down. Song Qingyun has become a vegetative state, and the doctor has confirmed this. Lying there like a living dead, not knowing anything about the outside world, not knowing what everyone is saying or doing. Standing by his side is his wife Jiao Hui. Jiao Hui took a towel and wiped her husband's body. The doctor said that although he had become a vegetative state, he might wake up one day. With the development of medicine, no one can be sure that a vegetative state can sleep for a lifetime. After all, there have been examples abroad, where some people in a vegetative state suddenly woke up after sleeping for a year or two. For the possibility of him waking up in the future, his family members must make all preparations. In addition to taking care of his hygiene, they must also massage his muscles to prevent his muscles from atrophy and being unable to walk even if he wakes up in the future. Xiao Hui hated the perpetrator so much. Why did she do this to King Yun? What a good person King Yun is. Smart, humorous, loyal, and reliable. The police have already said that an acquaintance committed the crime. Who is so cruel as to attack King Yun? King Yun is such a good person, it is impossible for anyone to have a grudge against him. When Zhang Xiaoxiao arrived, Xiao Hui was crying. Seeing Zhang Xiaoxiao appear, he quickly wiped away his tears. Xiaoxiao, you're here. After consultations with experts from various places in the past few days, no one has a way to treat Song King Yun's condition. Vegetative state is an unsolved mystery in medicine and there is no drug to treat it. The doctor said that he can only let family members often talk to him about things he is familiar with and things he likes, so as to stimulate his nerves and see if he can wake up early. One after another, family members, relatives and friends came to visit Song King Yun. But Zhang Xiaoxiao didn't show up. Although Song Moding said that Zhang Xiaoxiao was doing experiments, Xiao Hui still complained a little in her heart. After all, they were relatives. Even if it was a big deal, shouldn't she come to see her uncle first? Of course, Xiao Hui still has some selfish motives in her heart. She was thinking about Zhang Xiaoxiao's ancestral secret recipes. After all, the old man could be saved from such a critical situation. In King Yun's case, at least there was no problem with his vital signs. She hoped that Zhang Xiaoxiao would surprise her and that everything would turn around. Now Zhang Xiaoxiao finally appears. How can Xiao Hui not be excited? End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 524. Chapter 524 Hope. Xiao Xiao, come quickly, come and see your uncle. Xiao Hui pulled Zhang Xiaoxiao excitedly and didn't let go for a moment. Zhang Xiaoxiao was pulled in front of Song King Yun. The Song King Yun in front of him was completely different from the humorous and intelligent uncle in his memory. His eyes were closed, his face was pale, and he lay there silently. It seems that everything in the outside world has nothing to do with him. Zhang Xiaoxiao still doesn't know what's going on. It's just that I haven't seen anyone outside for a week, but the world has turned upside down. Uncle, what's going on? She hurried over in a hurry and didn't have time to see Song Moding, so she didn't know what was going on. She just knew that Song King Yun was sick. A week ago, your uncle was found to have been attacked on the head in the office. After being sent to the hospital for rescue, he became a vegetative state. It is said that the person who attacked him was an acquaintance who committed the crime. Your uncle has always been kind to others. I don't know, whoever is so cruel must kill him. Xiao Hui's words shocked Zhang Xiaoxiao. Is there still such a thing? If this happened to Song King He, Zhang Xiaoxiao wouldn't be surprised. With Song's mother as a person and Song King He's behavior, the couple would probably have a grudge against others. But Song King Yun is different. Song King Yun is a good old man, and he has a bottom line in doing things. He has never done anything wrong. Uncle Song is a real gentleman. Uncle Song couldn't even quarrel with others, so how could an acquaintance attack him? How much hatred there is, or it may involve the interests of others, but with Uncle Song's personality, it is absolutely impossible to compete with others for fame and fortune. Whenever you encounter anything, you give in and give in. It is not a strong relationship where you want to compete with others. Such a good old man can encounter such a thing. What happened in the middle? Jiao Hui held on to Zhang Xiaoxiao tightly. There are no outsiders here, Xiaoxiao, please, auntie. Zhang Xiaoxiao understood what Jiao Hui meant as soon as he heard this. The secret recipe passed down from her family in her hand is beyond the reach of ordinary people. Song Moding protected her very well. Every time these peaches were dealt, it would definitely pass through the hands of the two of them, and it was impossible for any trace to be leaked to the outside. This was also to ensure her safety. However, the effects of the ancestral secret recipe are still known to a small group of people. After all, this matter is not a secret. Besides, with the ancestral secret recipe being blocked from outside, it is very convenient for Zhang Xiaoxiao to do things. Auntie, I understand what you mean. Don't say whether you beg or not. As long as I can do it, I will definitely help you no matter what. This is Mo Ting's uncle, and we are a family. The biggest problem is actually not whether I can help or not, but I am worried about whether the ancestral secret recipe can cure my uncle's vegetative symptoms. After all, in ancient times, people probably didn't call this drug a vegetative state. I'm not sure that this ancestral secret recipe can really make my uncle return to normal. Zhang Xiaoxiao always thought that her peach could cure all diseases, but she later discovered that the effect of her peach was sustainable, which meant that after a certain stage, the peach did cure the disease, but it did not cure the disease. It doesn't mean you won't get the disease again in the future. If you don't take proper care of yourself in the future, you will still get this disease. The efficacy of peaches can only last for a certain stage. After that stage, your body's condition will still be the same as that of all ordinary people. They will also suffer from birth, old age, illness, and death. The problem is that what my peach treats is basically traumatic injuries, and this vegetative person has no idea which aspect it belongs to. It was definitely impossible for Uncle Song to perform an operation, so she really didn't know how effective her peach juice would be if she drank it. The peaches grown on the peach trees in Lingquan water have a special effect. So far, she has no way of confirming that a certain type of peach is specifically designed to treat vegetative diseases. If there were such a peach, then I would be great. But the uncertainty is too great. The only thing she can be sure of is that she can try her own peach juice for her uncle, but she should not mess with the peaches in the spiritual spring water, because the peach has the opposite effect. If she fails to cure the person, she will kill the person. To be put to death is the greatest sorrow. Jiao Hui seemed to have grasped a life-saving straw. Xiao, I'm also a doctor. Of course I know that even a doctor can't really bring the dead back to life. Auntie understands that people make decisions and success depends on God. I just want you to give it a try, even if there is a chance. Woolen cloth? Even if you don't succeed, your eldest aunt will never blame you. This can only be said to be your uncle's fate. Zhang Xiaoxiao said this just to put the ugly words first. In fact, even if Jiao Hui didn't have to say it, she would definitely take out the peach juice. Seeing her uncle lying on the bed like a dead man, this feeling must not be good. Feel good. Even if he is an outsider, Zhang Xiaoxiao will definitely try to save him, not to mention that this is Song Moding's uncle and one of his own. But it's obviously not the right time now. I still have to go home to get the secret medicine from my aunt's family, and I don't necessarily have a lot of it at home. I'll go back and take a look first. If it's not available, I'll prepare it for my uncle. So don't worry. Jiao Hui nodded eagerly. Even if Zhang Xiaoxiao said that it would take a year to get married, she would agree. If there is a glimmer of hope in 1 year, it is better than a lifetime. Xiaoxiao, don't have any psychological burden. Auntie knows that you are a good boy, a real doctor, and you have the world in mind. If this medicine is really useless to your uncle, you really don't have to worry, you can go back and ask your grandma and grandpa. Your aunt is not the kind of woman who makes trouble unreasonably and goes to the doctor to trouble her even though her own patient cannot be saved. No matter what, I would like to thank you, and I will remember this kindness in my heart. Zhang Xiaoxiao squeezed Xiao Hui's hand, gave her some comfort, and set off to go home. Things are a bit confusing. Back home, Song Moding was going out with a thermos bottle. The old lady and the old man are all lying in the hospital now and need someone to take care of them. Song Moding went home and asked his aunt to cook porridge and sent it to the hospital himself. He was in a state of confusion for the past 2 days and stayed in the hospital to take care of his grandparents. Today I went home to take a shower and tidy up. He didn't bother Zhang Xiaoxiao. Even if Zhang Xiaoxiao came back, he could only help take care of her in the hospital. He couldn't give peach juice to the old man and his wife because of such a slight problem. Of course he knew what Zhang Xiaoxiao was doing in the research room. He had no intention of alarming Zhang Xiaoxiao. The glutinous rice are now taken care of by an aunt. Of course, Mr. Wu and Mrs. Wu also come over to take care of the glutinous rice during the day. Their family owes this favor a lot. Now seeing his daughter-in-law, Song Moding was speechless and choked. He had been holding back from looking for Zhang Xiaoxiao, just wanting to wait for Zhang Xiaoxiao to come out before looking for her. He knew that Zhang Xiaoxiao would probably be able to find a way to save his uncle. Now that he saw his wife, he really didn't know where to start. The only option was to go up and hug Zhang Xiaoxiao, hug her tightly and absorb the warmth. Zhang Xiaoxiao stroked his back. "It's okay, everything will be fine." End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 525. Chapter 525 Treatment. Zhang Xiaoxiao took out the peach wine from the space. Song Moding specially customized a batch of glass bottles for her. These bottles are of various sizes to facilitate her experiments. The quantity in each bottle can determine the disease to be treated and the approximate amount required. Zhang Xiaoxiao doesn't know Song Qingyun's current state, so he can only try slowly and little by little. It is unrealistic to go up and drink a whole bottle of peach wine for someone. Because she was not sure how much Song Qingyun needed to drink in his current vegetative state, Song Qingyun was considered the first experimenter. The healing process of a vegetative person must of course be recorded in detail. Zhang Xiaoxiao only took 15 ml at a time. Knowing that the old man and the old lady were hospitalized, Zhang Xiaoxiao followed Song Moding back to the hospital again. Going to visit the old lady and the old man, of course, the more important thing is to drink the first bottle of peach wine for the uncle. Zhang Xiaoxiao is not sure. 15 ml can wake up a vegetative person. If possible, this would be a miracle drug. They went to see the old man and the old lady first. The old man and the old lady had long known that Zhang Xiaoxiao had gone into the laboratory without leaving the house. They have not complained about this grandson's wife at all. Their family is engaged in medical research. Of course, you know that once you enter the laboratory and enter the research state, it is possible to stay awake for several days and nights. Let alone know the situation in the outside world. So they also ask Song Moding not to disturb Zhang Xiaoxiao. Now when they saw Zhang Xiaoxiao, the two old men were also in great moods. The diagnosis given by all doctors is already conclusive. No one can come up with a real treatment plan. There are no drugs or other methods available now. There is nothing they can do except wait. The two old men were both people who had gone through big things. They were lying on the hospital bed these days, and they immediately thought of Zhang Xiaoxiao. The old man has personally experienced the magic of the ancestral secret recipe, which can definitely bring the dead back to life. Looking at their son lying on the bed so helplessly, no parent can overcome this difficulty. Seeing Zhang Xiaoxiao, he was a little too excited. Old Mrs. Song burst into tears. The old lady had been strong all her life, but as she got older, she became a tearful person. Zhang Xiaoxiao quickly went up to comfort the old lady and wiped her tears. This is really the first time I have seen an old lady so weak. That strong old lady, the cheerful old lady, has become like this. Everyone feels sad. Especially if this is one's own relatives. Xiao Xiao, Grandma. Grandma, please stop talking. I understand what you mean. I have brought the medicine to the uncle, but no one knows whether it will work or how long it will take. I just hope that if the uncle's condition is not good in the end, if it improves, don't feel too sad. The old lady nodded vigorously, and her face became a little rosy. That was because of hope. I'm not sad. I'm not sad. If it really comes to that point, it will be your uncle's fate. Zhang Xiaoxiao fed the two old people some porridge, and Song Moding helped them wash up. Originally, the two of them went to give Song Qingyun medicine, but the two old people insisted on following, so they had no choice but to help the two old people to go to Song Qingyun's ward. Hand down a bottle of peach wine. Everyone stared at Song Qingyun intently. Unfortunately, Song Qingyun's face looked very rosy and his breathing was steady. Apart from this, there was no sign of any change. Zhang Xiaoxiao also knows that 15 ml is indeed a little less. Auntie, don't be too sad. No medicine can be effective immediately. Let's drink it slowly and see. What kind of effect will it have? Maybe one day a miracle will happen. Qiao Hui also knew that she was being impatient for no reason. Even if it is Western medicine in the hospital, it cannot be effective immediately, not to mention that this ancestral secret recipe is usually a Chinese patent medicine. This medicine will take effect even more slowly, so we can only hope for a miracle to happen one day. The days returned to a calm state. Luz Heiming was severely criticized by his superiors for being a hot-tempered police officer. As soon as he left the office door, he became furious. The police are too cowardly. I have been tricked by others again and again. The last time about Mr. Song's incident, the doctor was poisoned to death, and the clues were completely cut off. But this time it was obviously done by an acquaintance. So far, they have not found any valuable clues. Not even the murder weapon was found. Song Qingyun usually has a very good relationship with all his colleagues. He has no enemies at all, and has no experience of quarrels or other such things. It is difficult to target a specific person, and it is impossible to conduct an investigation on everyone in the hospital. Their medical university has tens of thousands of teachers and students in total. If they were to investigate people like this, it would cause a nationwide sensation. When the time comes to cause panic among the people, the gain will outweigh the losses if the murderer is not caught. There are no clues at all about Song Qingyun's office. It's possible that all the fingerprints are from everyone in the hospital. After all, colleagues on the entire floor are visiting each other. It's normal for them to leave their fingerprints. No problem at all. It is impossible to arrest people for examination because of this. Everyone's answers are almost perfect and they can provide time witnesses. Luz Heiming was anxious and angry. The gangster who committed the crime might be so proud of himself behind his back. Luz Heiming returned to the scene again. No, the murderer must not be allowed to go unpunished. Let alone allow the injured to go without redress. Of course they knew that Song Qingyun was now in a vegetative state, and it was absolutely impossible for a vegetative state to tell others who the murderer was. To catch the murderer, the only thing we can rely on is the police. No matter how difficult the case is, we must solve it, otherwise they will all be sorry for themselves. After Zhang Xiaoxiao finished his class, his school and the second medical university were about to hold a competition. This was an exchange competition held by the two colleges every year. In competition and exchanges, everyone's skills can be improved. Of course, everyone wants their school to be the winner. And every year in the competition, the organizers will come up with all kinds of tricks and come up with various ways to make things difficult for the contestants. It can be said that the questions are something only you can think of, not them. Especially this year, they are not only holding a competition between two medical universities, but also a competition held by medical schools across the city. This time the competition is the most grand. Of course, each school contestant is a team, and each team can only have 10 people. Everyone in the school is actively signing up, because once the 10 members of the winning team are awarded extra points, the winners will also receive special treatment in terms of internships, employment, etc. in the future. This is also the biggest reason why people are eager to try it. Zhang Xiaoxiao also wants to participate, mainly because he wants to see this event that is held every year, and this year is a special event. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lucky Bag is Reborn with Space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 526. Chapter 526 Not Even Afraid of Death. Zhang Xiaoxiao took Feng Na to sign up. Feng Na has sent Huzi back. The family had no idea that Feng Na had gotten married on the farm. When they saw the child, their parents were shocked. However, after knowing the truth of the matter, her parents and brothers and sisters at home were just worried about Feng Na, especially because Feng Na was so nervous about her studies now. The parents were even more afraid that she would delay her studies, so the child stayed directly. When I heard that the child had been born with a hair lip, I felt even more sorry for the child. Now that the child has recovered to this extent, everyone in the family is happy. At least the child will not be discriminated against by others when he grows up. Feng Na explained all this to her family and hurried back to school. School classes could not be missed. I will not be alone in the future, I have a son to support, and I have to do a good job in my studies. Be a mother who is truly useful to society and makes her son proud. Xiao Xiao, you also want to sign up for the competition. If you sign up, I'd better not sign up to avoid embarrassment. Feng Na teased Zhang Xiaoxiao. With Zhang Xiaoxiao here, what else could they do? You're still making fun of me, you're a pediatrician and I'm a surgeon, how can they be the same? You test yours, I'll test mine, we each rely on our abilities. You still have the nerve to say, who can beat you as long as you are here? Feng Na suddenly became close to Zhang Xiaoxiao after the child incident, which was different from the previous closeness. In the past, the closeness was polite, but now the closeness is a little less reserved, and it has become as unscrupulous and intimate as sisters. That's it, if you're talking about me again, I've always been the first. Besides, this time the competition doesn't matter, it's all about glory for the school. Zhang Xiaoxiao is also very competitive. At least we will be academic masters in this life. If you don't manage your character as a top student, I'll be sorry for myself. Okay, I'll bring glory to the school too, classmate Zhang Xiaoxiao, let's sign up together. Since Huzi's surgery and his recovery was almost like that of a normal child, Feng Na's whole person has changed a lot. In the past, I was gentle and tolerant, but now I have a hint of humility, a humility deep in my heart. Everyone I talk to is a bit weak and unsure of myself. Now it seems that I straighten my back and the sun is shining brightly. The two people were holding each other's back, and then they were stopped. Who? Lu Daniu. Huzi's biological father. Lu Daniu originally wanted to throw Huzi to Feng Na, but none of them knew about Huzi's condition. It would be embarrassing to take it out. Feng Na definitely didn't dare to let her classmates know, so she could only send her home quietly. The question is, how could my mother-in-law's family not dislike it? Lu Daniu just wanted his wife to go back. Huzi was already like this. If his wife flew away again, what would he have left? It's not easy to marry a wife in the countryside. If Feng Na hadn't been helpless at that time, would she have been able to marry a rough guy like him? Now that my wife is gone, she will never look back. Lu Daniu was also furious, but because of his father's idea, he couldn't really break up with Feng-Na, as it would be irreversible. Once it was really known that Feng-Na was married to a farmer and gave birth to a deformed child. Feng-Na is really broken, and I'm afraid divorce is a certainty. Father asked him to bring Hyuza here just to give Hyuza to Feng-Na and force Feng-Na to make a choice. Feng-Na would definitely not dare to let people know about Hyuza, so she must send Hyuza back. As long as Feng-Na takes Hyuza back, her family will be fully prepared. Feng-Na will never think about it this time. In a year and a half, the school will definitely not want such students who do not go to school. Feng-Na was so disheartened that she couldn't go to school, so she had no choice but to stay in the countryside. Be a good daughter-in-law of their Lu family, live a good life with yourself, and have a few more children. Lu Daniu thought the same way. Of course he didn't want to really lose his wife. Married such an educated and beautiful female educated youth back home, he was the envy of many men in the village. He would never want a divorce. He really came to the city as his father asked, and took the opportunity to leave the tiger cub to Feng-Na. Then he hurried home, thinking that it wouldn't take long for Feng-Na to take Hyuza back to the village. Unfortunately, he waited and waited at home, and waited and waited. After waiting for such a long time, Feng-Na simply didn't go back. Lu Daniu was panicking now, and Liu's father was also puzzled. This idea came from an educated person in the village. How come it doesn't work when Feng-Na comes here? Feng-Na really dared to leave Huzi in the city. Even if it were placed in Feng-Na's house, Huzi's situation would not be a joke to everyone. Is it possible that Feng-Na's family is so easy to accept such a disabled child and is not afraid of being laughed at? With Hyuza's situation, outsiders will definitely question whether there is something wrong with their family's genes. There is this problem in the family, so the children born are like this. By then, will it be possible that the Feng family's older brothers, sisters, and younger brothers and sisters won't have to get married or have children? They saw this clearly, everyone was ashamed, and they couldn't afford to embarrass this person, so they felt that Feng-Na had to send the child back. The problem is that now Feng-Na doesn't give birth to children, which is a huge problem. They can't control Feng-Na if she doesn't give birth to children. Lu Daniu came with his two brothers this time. They agreed that if Feng-Na didn't go back with him, Feng-Na would be kidnapped. The Lu family cannot afford to lose this person. Now I see Feng-Na, she is like a normal person, playing around with others, with a bright smile on her face. It seemed as if Hyuza didn't appear by her side at all. How could Lu Daniu not get angry? Feng-Na, where is Hyuza? Although Hyuza was laughed at by the villagers for having a hare lip, in Lu Daniu's heart he was still his son. Although he, like the rest of his family, felt that giving birth to this child was a shame and a bit shameful. But after all, he is his own biological child. It would be a lie to say that he has no affection at all for this child in his heart. Lu Daniu has not had another child until now. This child is his life. After all, he is good to children. Feng-Na's face suddenly turned cold. You still have the nerve to ask me about my child? When you left your child alone in the city, you never thought that this was a strange city. How old is he? You just left your child here alone, aren't you worried about something happening to him? Feng-Na was furious. In the past, she might have felt guilty and felt that she did not want outsiders to know about this matter, which was a shameful thing. But now Hyuza has been completely cured, and in his heart he can talk about this matter like a normal person. It is not uncommon for educated youths to marry rural people. 8 out of 10 educated youths got married and started families in rural areas. Many of them married either a rural daughter-in-law or a rural man. They were not the first, so what was there to be ashamed of? At most, it can only be said a few words, but it will not kill anyone. A woman who is not even afraid of death, why should she be afraid of this? End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 527. Chapter 527 I don't know. Ludania was a little embarrassed by Fen Na's aggressive questioning. I came here to question Fen Na and planned to take Fen Na back. Instead, she was questioned by Fen Na. As soon as he went up, he twisted Fen Na, don't be so shameless. If it weren't for the fact that you insisted on reading some crappy book, I would have thrown the tiger away. Isn't it all because of you, a bitch? My heart is too wild and I can't live my life on my own terms. Otherwise, I'm so full that I'll do this. It is common for men to hit women in the village, but Ludania was always ready to take action if he disagreed with her. Fen Na was so frightened that her face turned pale. On the one hand, she didn't want things to get really big, and on the other hand, she was no match for Ludania as a woman. Zhang Xiaoxiao blocked the opponent's big hand with one hand. Your name is Ludania. You are Hughes's father, right? Ludania pretended to be pitiful in front of him that day, but today is completely different from that day. Today he is definitely acting like a strong countryman looking for his mother-in-law, and you can tell by looking at the two men behind him, then not a good thing. The idea of these three people is probably to take the person back directly if they disagree. In this day and age, it is not difficult to shut up your mouth and arrest someone directly. As long as Ludania reveals his identity as Fen Na's man, no one will care about such nosy matters. Even in later generations, human traffickers often used this method. What's more, they were a legitimate and legal couple. If they really arrested the person here, they would be hard to beat with 4 palms. There is really no one who will stand up and speak for Fen Na. I'm afraid everyone is thinking that it is better to do less than to do more, and to interfere less with other people's housework. When Ludania saw that this woman actually blocked his hand, his expression turned evil immediately. Of course, he recognized it at a glance. She was the woman in front of him, and he had left the tiger to her. What are you doing? Fen Na is my woman. Are you trying to meddle in other people's housework? Besides, you are a girl, why are you getting involved in such things? That means Zhang Xiaoxiao should step aside. Zhang Xiaoxiao pointed to the small door outside calmly. The north gate of the school usually had fewer people coming and going. In this era, people's words are feared. What people are afraid of is other people's gossip. Fen Na's matter must not become a big deal. Even if it is for Fen Na's own good, the scope of the impact of this matter must be reduced to the minimum. Now that you are here, don't you want to meet Hughese? Don't you want to know what happened to Hughese recently? Since you are a family, you can sit down and talk if you have anything to say. Why do you want to do it here? A man beats a woman, it's not a good thing, there are people in charge of it in the city. Ludania felt a little guilty when he heard this. He didn't know the rules in the city, but he knew that the people in the city were scary. The last time he got lost on the road, he took his children to the door of a restaurant to beg for food, but he was kicked away directly, and the police came to question him. At that time, he was frightened half to death. The people in the city have strict rules, so he naturally knew it. If you were regarded as a blind person by the people in the city and were directly imprisoned in the police station, you would have died unjustly. Can't help but mutter in a low voice. There are so many people in your city, so how can a couple not fight? If you hit her twice, what's the matter? Which man in our village doesn't hit a woman? Zhang Xiaoxiao pulled Fen Na out. Only the incompetent men in our city beat women. The capable men respect their wives very much. Only by respecting their wives can they be praised by others. Otherwise, they are the court leaders in the factory. I heard that if you beat your wife, you cannot promote such a person. In our place, if a man beats a woman and the superiors are alerted, they will be fired for minor reasons. People from the Women's Federation may not come directly, so the daughter-in-law will be taken away and a lawyer will help divorce the woman. This kind of people are uneducated and don't understand anything, so they can only fool around with this scaremongering. If you are tough with him, I'm afraid he will be tougher than you. If this kind of person insists on not getting a divorce, he will force Feng-Na to go back and make trouble in school every day. This kind of thing is not unheard of. Feng-Na will eventually be unable to study in school. Zhang Xiaoxiu's few words really made Lu Daniu look frightened. After all, they didn't know what the difference was between the outside world and theirs. This is Kyoto, the capital of the entire country. The people on the streets here all look like cotters. These high-rise buildings, plus the cars filling the streets, were nothing that people in their village had ever seen before, but they were still shocked by Zhang Xiaoxiu's words. Be in awe. I didn't hit her, I just said something and made signs to scare her. Lu Daniu's words made Feng-Na feel relieved. Lu Daniu is not very educated. If she is really irrational and starts beating someone, she and Zhang Xiaoxiao will not be able to beat them even if they are tied together. She can't harm Zhang Xiaoxiao. Since you didn't do it, of course it can't be regarded as hitting a woman. But in the future, you must remember that before you do it, think about it. Your wife is a cultural person now. You must know that your wife's school is a famous one in Beijing. Medical University. Do you know what graduates from medical universities will do? Students who graduate from medical universities will be doctors in the future. Others don't understand your family's situation, but I know best. Your wife came here to study medicine just to treat your son's illness, so that one day she can personally operate on her child and cure herself. The child's illness. On this point, I admire your wife so much. As a man, you can't help your wife solve her study problems, but you should at least solve her worries. Lu Daniu couldn't help but feel guilty after hearing this. He is not a beast. He originally thought that his wife was going to abandon her husband and son and run to the city to enjoy happiness alone. As a result, I now found out that the university where Feng-Na studied was actually to study medicine, and she would become a doctor in the future. It turned out that this was specifically to treat her son. I don't know, I really don't know, I thought. Lu Daniu was so ashamed that he couldn't hold his head up. The two brothers behind him saw that their brother was too stupid to be fooled into believing the woman in front of him. Feng-Na must want to go back to the city to enjoy herself. The educated youth returned to the city, and none of them were divorced from their families. They have already seen enough. Now that he is lying to his brother, he wants his brother to divorce Feng-Na honestly. These city people are so thoughtful that they can even say such deceptive things. End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 528. Chapter 528 Reluctance. Daniu, don't listen to her. This woman is just fooling you. It's not like you don't know about Hughes's situation. The surgeon who performed the surgery said that even after the surgery, he may not be able to return to normal. Feng-Na studied medicine for Hu Ziyi's sake. It was obviously for her own good. This woman wanted to abandon her husband and son. She actually said a lot of truths, and she just wanted you to divorce her honestly. If you are able, ask her to promise that she will not divorce you after she graduates and becomes a doctor, and will go back to the village with you to live honestly. See if she agrees. Lu Dashuan and Lu Dashan were fanning the flames from behind. Lu Daniu's biggest fear is that his wife will divorce him and he will be looked down upon in the village. As expected, Lu Daniu's face turned evil again when he heard this. Feng-Na, you lied to me. He believed that his brothers would not lie to him. Fona is a liar. Feng-Na gritted her teeth and said that she did not want a divorce. That would be a lie. A well-educated young woman marries a man who knows his wife and children all day long. She has no common language with a man who only forces her to have children. Feng-Na wants to live with Lu Daniu, but she can't say it out loud. She just wants a divorce. Looking at Feng Na's silence, Lu Dashan and Lu Dashuan sneered. Look, this is the true face of this woman. Don't be deceived by her. Take her back quickly and deal with her once and for all. Lock her in the house and give you 7 or 8 children. She will never be seen again. We'll have that idea. Lu Daniu's breathing became rapid. Feng Na actually dared to want a divorce. Lu Daniu couldn't bear it. Feng Na, are you going to go back at noon today, or do you want me to tie you back? Let me tell you, if you let me do it, don't blame me for being rude. And you, woman, this is our housework thing. Even if you city men don't hit women. However, you city people can't control us country people. At this moment, Lu Daniu immediately became stiff. He was afraid that he would lose his wife. Zhang Xiaoxin sighed inwardly. He couldn't be too self-righteous and thought that being a country person would be easy to fool. Country people were not fools. Do you think I have time to meddle in your family's business? You are so kind as a donkey liver and lungs. Even if you really take Feng Na back to give you 10 or 8 children, if all of them are like tigers, your family will became the laughing stock of the village. Still there, you are self-righteous. Hu Zi's situation is called a genetic disease. Do you understand what a genetic disease is? If parents have this kind of defect, they will bring out this disease when they give birth to children in the future. Even if you are uneducated, you should always know from your parents that when you marry a daughter-in-law, you should also find out whether there is any disease in the family of your daughter-in-law, and what kind of disease they are suffering from. Will it be passed down? Once it is passed on to your children, would you dare to marry such a daughter-in-law? You are still here bragging about giving birth to 10 or 8 children. You can go back and give birth. After giving birth, all of them will look like tiger cubs. I wonder how your family will live in the future. From now on, you will be exhausted and unable to feed your 10 or 8 children. Could it be that if you strangle one to death when one is born, then the police will have to deal with it if it breaks the law? Rural people don't believe in others and are really afraid of genetic diseases in their offspring. Zhang Xiaoxiao has come into contact with many rural patients, so he naturally knows what they are most afraid of. It is much easier to start from here than to directly persuade the couple to divorce. Sure enough, Lu Daniu and his 2 brothers stopped talking. 3 people followed the 2 of them at a short distance, with Didi Gugu behind them. Lu Daniu was also afraid. What if all the children born in the future are like tigers? When the time comes, don't be the of the joke. The whole village will laugh at you and you will not be able to hold your head up. How will you support these children? If you are like Huzi, you will definitely not be able to get a wife in the future. No family would be willing to marry their daughter to such a person at all costs. Is it possible that after giving birth to children, I will raise them until they die? He must also have that ability. Who gives birth to children not for the purpose of carrying on the family line and providing for them in old age? It would be better to stay here on your own. You will be a cow or a horse for the rest of your life, and you will have to support your own children when you are old. What is this picture? It's not that bad. It's better to have a wife than not to have a wife at all. Daniu, although this woman has bad intentions, she is right. I think my sister-in-law's situation seems to be a problem with my ancestors. You must know that there are no children with cleft lip in our village. Our ancestors there is no such problem. I heard that a family in the village next door gave birth to 2 children with cleft lips. As a result, the couple were so frightened that they did not dare to have any more children. In case the younger siblings are in the same situation, it will be the same for the next children. Then we really can't have this Feng Na. What's the use of having her? Just being beautiful is just a decoration. Living in this rural area, being pretty is useless. You have to be able to have children and live a good life. Lu Dashan thought that if Feng Na was like this, what would be the use of bringing her back to their home? How many cleft lips will be regenerated? That family's life is going to be difficult, and their family is not divided. Several brothers eat from the same pot. Is it possible that several members of the family will have to help the younger brother feed the children? Just like Huse, he can't even go out, let alone work in the fields in the future. It's not even embarrassing enough. The biggest problem is that Huse's behavior will make Lausan's family embarrassed after leaving the house, and others will suspect that their family members also have this problem. When the time comes for the children to marry their daughters-in-law, who would dare to ask for them? It won't even be a good marriage. This is a big deal. My children are still too young to consider this issue. Things will get worse when they are older. You can't let the third son have his temper. The third son likes his wife because she is beautiful. There is no man in the village who has married such a beautiful and educated young man. Men have self-esteem. They understand this. Who doesn't want to be looked down upon by others? The problem is that all the children his wife will give birth to are like this. This is not looking down upon, and this is not deliberately causing harm to the Lu family. Lu Dachuan also nodded and whispered, "Dad asked the two of us to follow you. That's the right thing to do. I'm just afraid that you can't figure these things out on your own. I don't think I can have your wife, so I might as well just take it a step further. The tiger child is with your wife now anyway, you gave her the tiger child as well. You don't have children to drag you down. At worst, you can go back and ask our father to find a wife for you in that poor ravine. As long as you can have children, you are not marrying anyone. Your daughter-in-law is beautiful, what's the use of being beautiful?" The woman turned off the light, and they all looked the same. Lu Daniel was reluctant to part with his wife, but he also took heart in what his two brothers said. It would really be harmful if a lot of children were born with hair lips in the future. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lucky Bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 529. Chapter 529 Divorce. Feng Na felt guilty. I was afraid that Lu Danio suddenly had trouble and his two brothers directly tied him back. Once he returned to that village, he really forced himself to have children at home. Even if he was completely destroyed in his life. Zhang Xiaoxiao held Feng Na's arm and comforted her in a low voice. "Calm down, don't tell anything about Huse. If you tell it, you won't be able to get divorced. You have to look like you don't want Huse and just want to push Huse to him. Remember that, then he will believe it." Feng Na was so trembling that she couldn't speak. "I feel slightly bitter in my heart. Asking Lu Danio to divorce me is not a dream. Lu Danio is so stubborn, how can he be willing to divorce me?" "Stop, where are you going? Do you want to trick the three of us into the wilderness and find someone to beat us up? Don't think we don't know that you city dwellers are so evil." The three Lu Danio brothers have already discussed the countermeasures, and naturally they are not willing to follow them anymore. Although they had already walked out of the small door, they originally planned to go directly to the small playground next to them to talk about the matter, but they didn't expect that these three people would not leave. Since they have already left the school gate, Zhang Xiaoxiao and the others are not afraid of being laughed at, so they stand still. "Don't be so mean-spirited. We are taking you to see Huse. You can't just leave Huse in someone else's house and just ignore it. Huse is still in someone else's little home. If you don't take Huse with you, go back. Why do you still want to leave Huse in the city and make yourself look embarrassed?" Fona tried her best to speak a little bit harshly and viciously. Lu Danio's eyes indeed had a look that I knew. "Feng Na, don't you want to divorce me? As you wish now, I will write a letter of introduction and divorce you when I get back, but there is one condition. If you get divorced, the tiger will have to follow you. From now on, I will treat you as if there is no tiger. If you dare not give up this son, I won't divorce you. Lu Daniu also knew that Feng Na wanted a divorce. The eldest brother and the second brother just said that as long as Feng Na is thrown to Feng Na, even if Feng Na gets divorced, she will not be able to find a good family. Who dares to marry a woman like her? Marrying back would not be a disaster for future generations. Feng Na would never think of getting married in her lifetime. Lu Daniu still felt comforted when he thought that Feng Na would never be able to get married in this life. In any case, after divorce, this daughter-in-law is still his wife. If she doesn't marry someone else, she will have to keep it to herself for the rest of her life, so he won't suffer any loss. Feng Na pretended to be angry and her lips trembled. Lu Daniu, are you still a human being? Huzi is your son, why don't you want it? You threw Huzi to me, what's going on? His surname is yours. Jia Lu, my surname is not the surname of my Feng family. Aren't you bullying? I don't want tiger cubs. Keeping in mind Zhang Xiaoxiu's words to remind herself, she must not take Huzi alive or dead, and she is even more resolute at this time. The people in the Lu family will become more convinced that there is something wrong with them. Lu Daniu sneered, what you think is not a good idea. It's not because of your illness that Huzi fell into this disease. If you don't support him, who will support him? If you want his surname to be Feng, that's fine with us. Let me tell you, either you take Huzi to divorce me, or else we just drag it out like this and I will drag you to death. Feng Na saw that the man in front of her was so dismissive of Huzi, her biological son, as if he was treating her as a burden, and she quickly threw it away. How could such a man blindly find him in the first place? I thought he was an honest rural man, but now I know that he is just a selfish villain. Whoever drags the other to death, I won't divorce you. How can you marry a daughter-in-law and carry on the family line? Feng Na yelled shamelessly, this was a gesture of wanting to break her face. Lu Daniu was even more convinced that there must be something wrong with Feng Na, otherwise she would not be able to move even the divorce. This woman has a dark heart. This is going to harm the entire Lu family. Let me tell you, if you don't divorce me, I will go directly to your school to find your leader with the letter of introduction. I don't believe that he can let a vicious woman like you do harm someone else's house. What do you want, Lu Daniu? Feng Na looked unbearable. Lu Daniu said proudly, let's get divorced immediately, and I will give you my son. Hauntedly, he left with his two eldest brothers. Not to mention that Lu Daniu was really resolute. After returning, the three brothers talked about this matter with the old man, and the old man thought it over. This daughter-in-law may be born with such hair lips in the future. If she keeps a nest of such rabbit lips at home, then the old Lu family is really going extinct. No matter whether it's good or bad, where can I find a daughter-in-law and marry a daughter-in-law? In order to protect the family from harm, they unanimously agreed to divorce Lu Daniu. The village chief was surprised when he went directly to the village to write a letter of introduction. He knew that if the educated youth could not be retained, he would definitely divorce Lu Daniu, but he did not expect that the Lu family would be so cooperative. Who doesn't know that Lu Daniu married such a beautiful daughter-in-law, and she would never divorce her? Now he actually took the initiative to come to the village chief to write a letter of introduction. This is simply a miracle, but there are some things that people don't say. The Lu family was afraid that Feng Na would regret it, so they went directly to Feng Na with the letter of introduction. Feng Na and Lu Daniu went to the street to go through the formalities and received the divorce certificate. The divorce agreement has been signed. Huzi will belong to Feng Na from now on. Lu Daniu will not be responsible for all Huzi's expenses. Lu Daniu finally felt relaxed. He took the divorce certificate and glanced at Feng Na proudly. Don't look at how beautiful this woman is. No matter how beautiful she is, if she can't give birth to a normal child, she is not a woman. Feng Na was finally light. I am divorced and can finally live a good life with my children. At least she no longer has to worry about Ludania coming to the door and abducting her. This time she is legitimately single. Even if you never get married and live alone with your son, at least you won't feel bad about it. There are not many good people in the Lu family. Ludania is gone. Feng Na felt relieved. At this time, something happened about Zhang Xiaoxiu's registration to participate in the competition. The department informed her that she had been disqualified. Registration ended in 10 days, and she was actually said to have been disqualified. Zhang Xiaoxiao is a little confused. Why should she be disqualified? Zhang Xiaoxiao went to find Jiazhou. Professor Jia is pretending to be waiting for Zhang Xiaoxiao to come. He was anxious for several days, waiting for Zhang Xiaoxiao to hand in his paper. This girl is so good that she is rushing to sign up for some competition. He will definitely not let Zhang Xiaoxiao participate in the competition. Once Zhang Xiaoxiao is in trouble in the competition, Zhang Xiaoxiao will attract attention. From now on, Zhang Xiaoxiao's thesis something went wrong. The pressure of public opinion that I have to bear is even heavier. I can only suppress Zhang Xiaoxiao and become an ordinary student. Why was she participating in some competition? Besides, Zhang Xiaoxiao didn't even send her the paper she asked her to hand in. At first glance, it seems that he doesn't take him seriously as a professor. Jiazhou decided to give Zhang Xiaoxiao a good beating. Don't take the professor seriously. He just wanted Zhang Xiaoxiao to be his gunner honestly. End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 530. Chapter 530 For Your Own Good. Professor Jia, my qualification has been cancelled. The department's notification was your intention. I want to ask what's going on. Zhang Xiaoxiao has been busy recently. He has just finished writing the paper and has not yet had time to give it to Jiazhou for review. When I came here today, I had papers in my bag. I came here to hand in my homework. Although Jiazhou does not look very good. You are your professor after all, so it is inappropriate not to hand in your homework. But a paper is not something she, a sophomore, should write. Zhang Xiaoxiao always thought that it was Song Qingyun who told him that Jiazhou would ask this of himself. Jiazhou calmly motioned for Zhang Xiaoxiao to sit down. A kind-hearted look on his face. A kind attitude. Zhang Xiaoxiao, the professor is here for your own good. You have outstanding talents and profound knowledge. You should focus on your studies. Competitions are just a means of sensationalizing and will not help your studies at all. You still don't want to because of this. My studies are delayed. Do what the teacher tells you well. Jiazhou's words almost made Zhang Xiaoxiao happy. This is what the professor said, and it is for your own good. This professor will always act like a superior teacher who wants to be your best friend, and speak high-sounding words. The problem is that she is not a child, and she understands the reason for flattery. Which teacher would say such stupid things? Song Qingyun hasn't woken up yet, but he has had some sensory reactions recently. He has only been drinking for 2 days. He hopes Song Qingyun wakes up early, otherwise he will explode sooner or later under Professor Jia's hands. Professor Jia, I don't think there is any conflict between participating in the competition and my studies. I would like to sign up to participate. It is also an opportunity to communicate and learn with everyone. I hope you understand. Zhang Xiaoxiao really thought about it and discussed it well. Professor Jia has no relationship with her. The Manchurian Communist Party itself has taken one of Professor Jia's classes in the past 2 days. Moreover, this class only talks about some theoretical knowledge, which is all written, and there is nothing practical at all. Basically it's like a script. There is no knowledge guidance that is suggestive for students at all, and it seems to be copied from the book. This kind of teacher Zhang Xiaoxiao will not like it. A teacher is not simply a teacher. What is more important is how to teach students so that students can master knowledge as quickly as possible. This is the reflection of the teacher's ability. Obviously, the Professor Jia in front of me is said to have just been promoted to professor, and this professor is not very qualified. I don't even understand why such a person can be promoted to a professor. Jiazhou was a little angry. Zhang Xiaoxiao dared to have this attitude. He was her teacher. In this era, the relationship between students and teachers is definitely one of respecting teachers. Zhang Xiaoxiao, I have made it very clear that I do not agree with your participation in the registration competition. This matter has been decided in this way, and I have notified the department that your registration form has been revoked. You should go back and submit your paper as soon as possible. I write it out. Don't worry about other things, just focus on studying. Write a few more papers. Now I am your teacher. I don't agree with you participating in the competition. No one can go past me. Jiazhou does not believe in evil. Zhang Xiaoxiao is just the granddaughter-in-law of MRS Song, but he is a teacher. No one can say anything about Zhang Xiaoxiao. Zhang Xiaoxiao's anger suddenly rose. Professor Jia, what do you mean? Do you know that you are a misguided disciple? I have the right to participate in this competition. This is a competition held by the school for all students. There is no rule about who can register and who cannot. Sign up. Even if you are my teacher, you do not have any right to make this decision for me. Zhang Xiaoxiao is generally very tolerant and will not conflict with others head-on. There is no other way. In my previous life, I was used to giving in to others everywhere. She was suddenly asked to be a strong person in this life, but she couldn't do it. It was a habit, and her character couldn't be said, because she would change immediately after rebirth. Many people say that she is more like a holy mother, but there is nothing they can do about it, she is just such a person. Jiazhou stood up and said, I am your tutor. If I do not agree with your participation, your registration form will not be included. Remember your identity, you are a student and you are currently focusing on your studies. And I am your teacher, you must show some respect to me. I ask you to hand in your paper tomorrow. Zhang Xiaoxiao glanced at Jiazhou disdainfully. Really? You are indeed my tutor, but I'm sorry. I'm just a sophomore. Now is not the time for me to submit my thesis. Due to emotions and reasons, the thesis has nothing to do with me. Even if you are my teacher, you must also have a minimum of respect for me. I have the freedom to sign up for the competition. If you insist on stopping me, don't blame me for being rude. Let's go head to head. Jiazhou was so angry that he almost vomited blood. You, Zhang Xiaoxiao, do you still have me as a teacher in your eyes? Do you believe that I will prevent you from graduating? Many tutors have the credits for students' graduation. Giving one more point or one less point may really affect whether a student can graduate in this subject. Zhang Xiaoxiao was surprised that a professor from Jiazhou could even say such a thing. This is completely shameless. When Professor Jia met him at first, he was serious, caring about talents, and respecting himself very much. But now, what is the reason for this tearful look? She has not offended Professor Jia recently. The two of them only talked twice in total. The first time was about the paper, and the second time was about the competition. Then I don't believe it as you say, how can a professor cover the sky with one hand? Zhang Xiaoxiao took his backpack and walked out. Jiazhou sneered and said, whether you can cover the sky with one hand is not up to you. You are just a student. If I prevent you from graduating, you will never be able to graduate. You will never be able to become a doctor in this life. This is the threat of Chiguakuo. Jiazhou cannot let Zhang Xiaoxiao disobey discipline. If Zhang Xiaoxiao is not subdued this time, Zhang Xiaoxiao will definitely not listen to him in the future. Only by making this girl suffer a big loss can you know what you, a professor, can do. You can also make Zhang Xiaoxiao listen to you in the future. Otherwise, it would be a joke if he wanted to write a paper. He didn't see that this girl was now confident and not afraid of herself at all. Of course, who has the upper hand in Zhang Xiaoxiao's battle? Isn't it just relying on the power of the Song family? But what can the Song family do if they are more capable? Song Qingyun is lying in the hospital now, and the Song family cannot interfere in school affairs. His uncle is still the deputy dean, and he is now a professor. If he wants to cover the sky with one hand, he can really do it. Zhang Xiaoxiao sneered, "Okay, Professor Jia, let's just wait and see. Walk cleanly and neatly." Jiazhou kicked the door angrily. The door was hit against the wall with a loud bang. End of this chapter.